Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Uh, Canadian. Been fishing all my life. I started off fishing all the rivers and whatever I could get to a hold of fish. Couldn't get out in many boats when I was younger. And finally, a friend of mine started bringing me out of Oakville, and the sky became the limit with the salmon industry.
hmm I know you've got a deep rig tackle on your shirt.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So same guy was I aforementioned there. We went out and we actually stuck a swim bait inside a meathead when we ran out of meat,
hmm
and it didn't work so well. It kept falling out. So we went back to the drawing board and we found a couple pieces of rubber in the garage and threw a couple of them in. The first two didn't work.
hmm
One actually worked. So from there, just I have a CNC background. I do programming and machining CNC. So I had some good owners that I worked for, and they said, yeah, um, take a go at it, do some stuff on your own time. So I made molds,
hmm
and then first bait I threw down and it took,
Yeah.
and I couldn't believe it. So I was like, you know, kept going with it. And a couple guys reached out that I fished with, and they said, "Can you make us some?"
hmm
So then more and more people can make more. And then so I said, you know what? I wonder if I could turn this into something. I started trying to use another type of bait that was being made, and great success.
hmm
So I wanted to do a little bit different because I believe totally in the contrasting of colors when they're rotating down there, and so I wanted to bring a little bit more and put more into this bait and see what I could, and the stuff just worked phenomenally.
Yeah.
So just from there on, kind of got into all the stores on the North Shore, and it kind of blew up. Guys started winning tournaments. We won a couple tournaments. They worked great. Uh, and then met a couple guys named Richard and Craig at Jackie. They called me up and said, "Do we have some of these baits?"
hmm
I said, "Hell yeah, of course
Yeah.
you can."
Yeah.
So I set them right away. They kept I guess as Richard said, the cat in the bag. Or they let the cat out of the bag eventually last year. And then Doug and the wonderful people at Fish USA, they reached out. They said they wanted to start carrying them, and it's just been blowing up, and more people winning tournaments.
Yeah. Well, that's an
So
awesome story.
yeah, Kevin is probably several years ahead of Anthony that we had on.
hmm
And his business has exploded out of necessity because like he said, the demand, right?
hmm
Um his are a little different that they do have a tuning metal inside.
hmm
So if I as a angler was to look at the two, one is much more dependent on the head. The one with the metal is pretty much can be tuned to any head you want to run. And they definitely have their niche. Color combinations, it's just fun to watch the innovation, and same kind of questions we got earlier. I'm sure Kevin's going to get, what about the natural sense and what about that? But there's so much possibilities with the color
hmm
and the depths, and it's been very interesting to watch. Um, how did your fishing go on the North Shore last year?
So we started off. Well, okay, so we start every tournament of the year, the King of the Lake out of St. Catharines,
hmm
and like a lot of guys, you gotta have a spoon program. That's all you can use in the spring. It's not true. It's not true. The fish will take them. Uh, and the advantage of having that spine is you can give it just a subtle, or you can give it a little tweak in the back that it's going to do more of a whip 6 to 12 and then slow coming back up 12 to 6, right? We caught lots of fish on these in our program. Guys won that tournament using real meat, so I'd like to get them using these too. That'll be a goal for this year. But basically, we didn't really leave 60, 70 feet of water the whole summer. We were lucky last year. We had all the bait fish on our side of the lake. Um, I can't speak to how it was here. We came down a few times for Real for a Cure tournament. Came and visited a few times. I want to fish over here more this summer.
He's a
But
big supporter of Reeling for a Cure, and I thought it was great because he's from Canada and he learned about it, and Dreamweaver contributed a lot, and they put a rig together between his body and the flashers as something to raise money at the captain's meeting, and then there's prizes if biggest fish caught on the combo, and
Yeah.
make sure everybody gets samples. So he's been a big supporter.
Very cool.
Favorite tournament.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of tournaments, Kevin?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fish with a friend of mine. His name's Casey.
Okay.
So we usually we have different people to sub in for the third,
Mhm.
but the two of us fish quite frequently during the week, weekends, and we do all right. I'd like to do better, but you know, there's a lot of good competition out there.
Yeah.
So,
Tell me a little bit about that. When you guys are out fishing your tournaments, how is that different from when you're just out fishing and having fun?
I enjoy the camaraderie. You know, there's been a little bit of like bad publicity over the last couple of years with with cheaters but all in all, the salmon community, whether it's on the North Shore with the Canadians or on the South Shore with the Americans, I mean, I love coming down to this side of the pond
Mhm.
because I meet such great people. And same thing when the guys come up to our side. There's a good camaraderie. Like I said, there's good competition. There's sometimes there's too good of competition. But I love getting out of there or getting out on the lake and just doing what we all love to do, right?
Mhm.
Um, Especially with having the baits now. So there's always, oh, what if I do this with this? Oh, and then I see a flasher here, and then it's like, okay, oh, well, that spoon, well, you're gonna put this with this, and everybody wants to have matching stuff. Well, I want to mix it all up.
Mhm.
I find it personally, I get some of the bigger fish, the more I mix up my program with different colors.
He's not very OCD.
Oh yeah, no, not at all. But
I-
yeah, we had a good year this year. There was, we didn't have to go very deep for the fish. Um, we got to try to win back the tournaments. I guess Vision Quest likes to come up into our water and take all the trophies.
He is also a big supporter of Reeling for a Cure. He's fished it almost every year. Had a group of ladies on board.
Yeah.
But so one of the topics we touched on with George from Lake Michigan, it was mass reproduction and those contributions and things. We hear a lot about the ganny, but do all the rivers up there contribute wild fish?
A buddy of mine, his name is Craig. He kind of just took over in the Saugeen. I remember fishing Skamania when I was a kid, and it was awesome because they'd come into the river to spawn more in the summer months, right? But I'm not too sure to speak to the other rivers, but I know they're trying to keep building, but with the limited resources that they do have. Um, I know some of the salmon up there, in Georgian Bay, they're smaller. The bait fish is a little bit smaller. But yeah, they're doing a lot of good stuff up there.
What about the North Shore of Ontario, besides the famous Ganaraska?
So South Shore Lake Ontario, we got a lot of tournaments now. Like for instance, Whitby, there's 3 tournaments for the port.
That's North Shore. Yeah.
Or sorry, for North Shore.
South Shore of the province.
Yeah.
That's
So
where that comes from.
Yeah.
so they're doing a lot more of the stocking programs and trying to get a lot more tournaments going. And then there's a lot more companies that are willing to put samples and product out there to for more money for the stocking programs and keep this fishery is at the level that it's at now. Um,
Is it almost all volunteer driven if it's not wild fish?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And that's one of the big things with everybody, the community that's involved with the salmon and steelhead out in our lakes, is everybody is so they treat it as though it's precious,
Yeah.
which it is, right?
So when you're out there doing R&D with your products, are you testing proven versus experimental, or are you testing proven versus other applications like spoons or whatever?
Well, honestly, like we'll run a couple spoons in the spring in our program, but once it hits, say into June, mid-June, myself, I'm meats and flies.
Mhm.
Whether it's real meat, whether it's my baits, it's mostly my baits. But um, we do get off the spoons just because of the speed. You want to be running your meat and your flies are all right, but where you want to run the meat, the big currents out there and stuff like that, you don't want those things going all over the place when you
Right.
get down to the depths and stuff. So
And your business name is Deep Rig Tackle.
tackle, yeah.
Yeah. So you have that metal piece in your artificial baits. Tell me about when people put those in the water and they want to tune them. Can you give us just kind of an overview on how to tune these things when they're going to use them?
So I find, like one year it was a banana bend in it. Last year it was very subtle. My suggestion is stay subtle when you first start. When you first put it down, um, see what happens. Uh, you do definitely want to have the spine in there to control that bend. Uh, don't be afraid to play with your leader lengths. If the fish aren't going, don't just start bending it like crazy. Start with just a subtle bend. Usually that's going to be enough to get those fish to get on there. Um, like I said, you could do a subtle bend at the end of like you say, the last quarter inch of the metal spine, and it's going to do more of a quick roll up and then down, and it's going to just look more erratic,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll trigger the strikes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's what I really like. What should people look for when they're just dropping over the side of the boat, looking down, making sure it's doing what it's supposed to do? What should it look like if it's good?
So you want to 2 to 3 rolls per second, but I mean we put cameras down with the baits all the time, except for the tournaments. But it actually looks a lot different. Like I was saying with the currents and stuff, it looks a lot different when it's down there. So it's not going to be going like this through the water. It doesn't stay. It does more wider bends. So it's different with the bigger paddles like the 10-inch and as opposed to using like the 8-inch. But you want it to be spinning. When you see it, put your rod down in the water, get it down a little bit, and you want it to rotate about 2.5 to 3 turns per second. And that's usually a good starting point.
All right, I've got a question here for you. This is back on the natural versus Jim asked, does Canada have pen rearing programs similar to the U.S.? And I know they have one in St. Catharines, so what about up in the Toronto area?
Oh, everywhere. There's Brawny. Port Credit has two derbies in the year. You got your big ones out of Scarborough, and they actually do have a pen derby there as well. So there's one in Brawny, 2 in Port Credit, 1 pen derby out of the Bluffs. There's 3 out of Whitby, and now Gagnon Sports does another one as well out of Whitby. You got Coburg.
I believe
there's-
there's Penn Project with volunteers out of Bluffers as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So you said early on, you like to mix up those colors. Tell me about the kind of the color combinations that you really like.
So the ones that I like, I'm just so happy that I got the White Lightning down pat, because man, that takes a lot of fish. So the greens are go-tos, and then there's the Green Goblin that has the ladder in it. They love the ladders. We all know that. They love the dots. Basically anything you can get off any shelf, it works. It's proven time and time again. Guys are winning tournaments with them. A couple of years ago, I started with the blues. Guys veered away from the blues for a bit, as far as I like, for what I feel that they veered away. So I did a crazy ice. The thing has not stopped in over 2 years now. That's a staple to have out there. Again, your greens, your chartreuses, the glow frog. There's going to be a couple coming out next year that are a little bit different spin-offs of that the glow frog. But yeah, your greens, your whites, the MVP is a great one to have. You got now the 2 staples. If you're going to pick 2 baits, I'd say Dalmatian and crazy fish.
Okay.
So now I've started putting that holographic glitter into those. It's become a crazy D and a crazy C. So when the light comes up, those things are just shining like crazy in the water.
Very cool. So we can get deep rig tackle at Fish USA.
Yep.
How else, if people want to know more about what you do, where should they go?
So on my website, there's a list of all the retailers. There's I guess about a half dozen, Georgian Bay, Lake Huron.
Okay.
Almost every small store on the North Shore has them.
Okay.
So Fish USA, Narby's has them, and Mitchell's has them. There's a few other that'll have them this year. And yeah, I had tripled up on my molds just to keep up with. I didn't think it was going to blow up so quick.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, by the way. But but there will be more stores, or we're moving over to Lake Michigan now.
Okay.
I'm just trying to expand. I just want to make sure people aren't waiting for baits.
Sure.
Just got to keep up, and I want to get as much out to everybody, and guys can win some tournaments, and take lots of big fish.
Awesome.
These things love big fish.
What's the website?
It's deeprigtackle.com.
Deeprigtackle.com. Go and find all of Kevin's stuff there. Appreciate you coming on, man, and good
Thank you
luck.
very
It's
much.
awesome to hear your business is exploding and things are going well. I love to hear those
Thank you, man.
stories.
Thank you to everybody for giving it a shot.
All right. He's Kevin Frenette.